used to use them on
Quilts, they did? Where'd they get them? Up in Nebraska?
Yeah, I guess so.
I know the Sioux use them.
That's what, that's that book he sent me. He put a comment on it and tell me.
I wonder how he did. Sometimes they make up things. You know, they say, oh, well, they'll see a design and they'll make up what they think it means. Moccasins like that. Oh, there looks like a ghost dance shirt. Is it? Yeah, it is. Did you ever see the ghost dance? Did they wear shirts like that down here? I never heard Garland talk about his grandparents. They were in the ghost dance, you know.
There were just certain ones that used to dress like that. Grandma Washington had a book to dress something like that.
She just wore it at the ghost dance?
Ghost dance. I don't know what they ever done with it.
I wonder whose this was.
I don't know.
Maybe somebody came and bought it and carried it away. That turtle. What does that turtle mean, Nora?
Couldn't prove it by me.
I never heard Garland talk about turtles either.
That turtle, some of them used to have signs for that, you know, and a crow, and an eagle, and a deer, and a bear, bear claws, and
I know about those, but the turtle.
And a bird.
One of the old men was a cardinal in the doctor dance. Was a cardinal, Garland said.
And coyote, and a wolf, and then I don't know what you call them. Is it muskrat?
Muskrats and beavers, otters. Otter was sacred.
They used to tell us stories, you know, about different things like that, and I used to know a lot of them. And that Bakustet would eat that fable. Different fables, and just like that, they got one. It's something like a riddle, you know. I would say it's like a riddle.
I don't know that.
Different things they used to tell us, you know.
What's a riddle? What's that?
Riddle. It's a long story.
Oh, it's some other time. Garland told me the story about the little snake.
Oh.
The little snake that got out on the road, you know. He had the little rattle and he was so proud of himself. Oh, that is a marvelous story. And there's a little song that goes with it, and he sang that little song. And, I just love that little story about that little snake.
You should have told him to put it on tape.
We got it.
Have you? Oh.
I've got him singing that the story and the little
I've
snake
got a
song.
book too that Leslie Hearn sent me from California on that ghost dance deal.
Ah.
And, I never have read it either.
What's it look like?
It's just a little old storybook. It's on sale, I guess, in different ghost dance.
Is that the one that Al Lesser wrote? Lesser wrote something about the ghost dance. Back in the 30s, that was Gene Weltfish's husband.
Oh, I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, him and Mark Everett wrote it. Whoever it was.
Yeah.
Mark Everett. Oh, they used to get so bad at Mark for telling things.
I know it. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and he'd tell it and then he wouldn't tell it right.
That's what Garland said. He said he just didn't.
Yeah. My mother bawled him out one time. She sure bawled him out right. That was our son. In the Indian way, that's our son. You always like to tell things and you don't even know the truth. And you're just a kid, she told him.
Well, that's the way it was with,
Now look at it. See
Yeah.
what's from the beginning.
well, I don't know what the turtle is. That's
Well, we'll forget the turtle this time. See,
okay,
that's
here we go, here we go.
Turn it the other way. You can't see.
I can see fine. I'm just gonna look at pictures, aren't I?
Oh, is that why you're going to look at pictures?
I can't read. Let's see here. Well, if I know this, they've taken stuff they just, everything that's printed, they think it's true.
That's what I
And
figured.
you know, they don't know that much, and that's why it's important for the people like yourself. And I think I know some little things, because Garland certainly talked a lot to me. Pottery. Now pottery, don't worry about that.
Our people used to make dishes out of roots.
Out of roots.
Cottonwood tree.
How can you make a dish out of a?
Get that big root and then
You cut it out. Make a bowl.
Make so make bowls, cups and dippers.
Did your mother ever do that?
My mother never did do that.
Pawnees made pottery too, long time ago.
Long time ago. And then they said they used to use this bladder. You know, that big bladder. They used to use that to hold water in after they dry it, and then they just dip water with it, wash it out.
You're good.
They use that for water, like a water bucket.
Now see, that's the kind of thing that Garland would never think of telling, because he wouldn't be hauling water. That's things that women did.
Yeah, and then dishes, they to make them out of roots, you know, tree root. I got a bowl that Grandma Lockley made.
Oh.
It was in I'd say 18.
Can I see it sometime?
19. I never did use it. She told me to use it, but I never did. And then my mother had little medicine bowls, you know, made different.
Different sizes?
Yeah,
like those little horns? Did you have those little horns?
Yeah, we got horns too. No, I got none. I could have a museum of my own.
So could I. Maybe we could have a Pratt Blend museum.
My grandfather, I guess he used to doctor like a broken leg and like that. And I got them things.
What are those, sticks?
They some kind of a flat stick, about that wide.
2 inches.
Some's that long, and then some's this long.
6 inches. Well, I suppose the short ones would be for the wrist.
Put them like this way. Then they had buffalo hide to put around it. I don't know what else. And then they tied it with that buckskin.
He was a doctor. So was Wichita a doctor.
Yeah. So that's what.
But there are none of those left in the family of ours.
I got them, and then I got his leggings that he wore in when they had that war, some kind of a war. I don't know where it was at, but anyway, he was wearing them leggings, and I still got them.
Oh, Nora, how wonderful! How wonderful!
It's got bear claws on there, and they shot his finger. I don't know which finger it was, but it must have been one of these. They said it was over like this when them Cheyennes used to call him Crooked Finger.
Is that why he was called that?
Yeah, they call him Crooked Finger. I got those.
Isn't that, it must feel good to have things that come from so long ago that takes you back to the time.
Yeah,
Some people don't.
My dad had them, see, and then after he passed away, my mother just kept them. So I just put them in mothballs and leave them. They got them all tied up, you know.
Are they leather? They're buckskin?
Buckskin.
And they're beaded or painted?
They beat it. They beat it on the side.
With the bear claws?
With the bear claws on it.
My, those must be beautiful. Maybe he wore those. Was he a bear in the bear lodge? Bear dance? Was he in the bear dance? Because most of those bear doctors had those.
Yeah, I guess. He passed away in about 1910, after I was born in 1909.
You don't remember him?
I really don't remember him. But It's what my folks used to tell about him, you know. And my grandmother, she passed away before him. My own mother, my father's mother. They had different mothers, my uncle and my father. And my father had a sister, her name was Effie.
Effie. A lot of Effies in the tribe.
That kind.
Effie Osborne, Effie Blaine.
Yeah, that was her name. I don't know how she was enrolled, whether she was enrolled children or how she was enrolled. But they were all enrolled different names, see, but they still had the same father.
Yeah, that's really confusing when you go back and you find all those, that they just gave them any name. Sometimes a brother and sister had an entirely different name. When they go to school, they'd give them an English name. And then they'd, it's hard to know.
Oh, it's named after James Miriam's daughter, Nora.
Nora.
My name's Lula Nora.
Lula Nora. There was Lula Otter once. There's a Lula Otter.
Lula Nora.
It's pretty.
But they just call me Nora.
Not L.A.
No. They didn't say. It's got a lot of pictures in it.
Sure has. Woman's dress. Does that look like a Pawnee woman's dress to you?
I don't think so.
It doesn't look like one to me.
No, I don't think
You know what? In some of these museums, Nora, they'll have stuff labeled as Pawnee or Sioux or Cheyenne, and sometimes it's not. And a person that doesn't know, like this young man, would go and say, he would know, and he'd draw this picture, but this is figure 6.
Ours, I think, used to be like that one with some crows on. With them crows on, and then they had teepees too. They used to have crows, or either eagle or deer, or
on a teepee?
Green, or deer, or the moon and the sun. I seen that.
The star?
And the star.
Star was important.
I seen some of those, but that.
You actually saw them when you were little?
Huh?
You actually saw them when you were little? Oh.
Grandma Washington used to have one that had crows on there, and the deer, and the moon. With a star on a teepee.
Well, the evening star and the morning star were sacred, were important.
Yeah,
and the moon was a tira, a pa, moon. Pa?
Pa.
Pa. You gotta be careful how you say that, Garland said, because one way it means elk, one way it means moon, another way
it's just according to how you use it.
Pa. Pa.
And then they used to call it a tira. That moon. See, because when you think about it, you know, the moon changes from new moon to full moon, you know, full moon to new moon, rather. Well, that's how they counted their, when the woman was pregnant, they'd count them that way.
By that?
By the month.
Ah.
Did you know that?
No. Now, see, that's the sort of thing that Garland says, ask Nora. There are certain things men don't say.
Well, that's what they used to do, and then like in springtime or, you know, something like that, where they'd go by that, you know.
To plant?
To plant, or to, like when they'd have a child in the fall, you know, they'd say, well, a certain time of the year, well, that's their birthday, I guess you'd say. See? And in the spring, that's how they kept it. And my mother had a horn too. It was I don't know whether it's a deer horn or what, but anyway, they used to have that horn, and it's just slick, you know, and they'd burn a hole in it, I guess, for each year, for each season, you know, that when they had their birthday, I'm gonna say.
Birthdays.
That's so much, you know. They have them close together and have on that horn.
Really? That was how they kept...
See, I know a little bit something.
Ooh! A horn that they burn little holes in to keep track of time. Time was years. Birth, a child. Well, for every child, did they have another place on the horn that they counted?
No, they just had them horn on them. It's about, like that.
Yeah.
Like that horn. And then it's kind of long here, you know, to the, I guess where it goes in.
Yeah,
you know.
The head.
And then they burn hole in it, you know.
1, 2, 3, 4.
They go that way and then this way.
Then out up the other side. Then down.
Yeah, that's the only way they had them that way. I don't know.
I never heard of that before.
Whose they were, but they had them.
That's a timekeeping thing. Well, they were keeping track of the years of a family member, the number of years it was old. Well, did they have any other thing to keep track of just plain years?
I don't know about that, but that's the way they said they used to keep track till they get so old, and then they take care of themselves. But this one has, I don't know how many it's got on there.
That's interesting, Nora.
And then they used to make combs out of this, some kind of a weed. I had one. I don't know if it's still around or not. Some things I've lost.
Have you?
Somebody took, you know. And they burn them on the end. They burn them on the end, and then when you comb it, it feels like a brush.
Oh, good stiff.
They have them about that big around.
About 1.5 inches. Well, they tied the bunch?
They tie them.
At the top. Like a little
they tie the
short
top
little
like a, you know, just about that much, and then the rest you use for a brush, a comb.
I never saw that. Never heard of that either. Just think of this. Did the Pawnees, when a woman was having her period, did she have to go out of the, stay away from the mud lodge?
Yeah.
I often wondered about that, but I didn't ask.
They used to have a little, I guess a little, what you call it?
House?
That's where she used to have to stay.
Did she have to stay in there all the time, or did she come out?
Not all the time. Yes, she could come out, but she'd have to stay in there, you know, not be among with these others, you know, mingle with them. Then they said something about the blood, you know, the odor of it. I guess some of them couldn't take it or something. I don't know what it was. But anyway, she used to have to stay in there, you know, till.
What did they use? Grass or rags, or what did they use in those days?
Rags, I guess.
I wonder before they got rags what they used, before there were rags.
I don't know. Maybe buffalo hide, you know.
Maybe they used buffalo fur or something.
Something.
Those are very practical problems that nobody ever asked questions about.
Yeah. And then when the French ones came over, well, they brought material to them, you know, maybe they used that,
rags,
you know. But as far as other things, and then they used to use blackberries, and then there's another weed they used to use, like make tea.
Blackberries.
You know, blackberry vines, you know, they'd use that.
Use the leaf?
Pound them, no.
The berries.
The vine.
The vine itself?
They cut them so long, and then they pound them.
Your mother used
them? Then they boil them.
Is that for medicine or just for drinking?
For a drink.
I never knew that.
Like tea, and then this other one too, but I forgot that other weed. Mama used to fix it every now and then.
Did she get it out here?
Used to, but anymore all these weeds are different.
Garland and I went. Did I tell you about the time when old man St. Elmo sent us out? He said, Sonny, he says, I want nephew, he called Garland nephew. He said, nephew, I want you to go out and get me some medicine. He says, I want you to go out, and he gave the Indian name. So Garland and I went out, And he told us sort of where to go. It was out near Merrimack, where the Peter-Hoy-Rots used to live out in that area.
Oh, I bet that
So
water
we
root
went,
and that
and we
calamine strip.
No, it was something that was supposed to grow up on the hill.
Oh.
And we went out, and Garland says, I think this is it. And then I thought this was, so we were picking up all these little plants, you know, and very carefully putting them in the brown sack, you know, and being real careful and doing it in a reverent way. And he took it back, and we put them down in front of St. Elmo, and he says, nephew, I don't know these. We hadn't gotten one thing.
Oh,
not
what
right.
he wanted.
But Garland said that he thought those plants didn't grow anymore around here, that he wanted, but these look something like it.
Yeah, a lot of them that we used to use, my mother and my grandma, we used to go with her to Ralston along them railroads. We used to go along there with her, and she'd pick up different kinds. She'd tell us, now pick this one. And she'd talk to it.
Yeah.
She'd talk to this plant, see. Now you dig. We'd dig for her and get them out.
That's the same way it was when they used to cut down trees. Garland said that his grandfather would talk to the tree and tell him that it was going to be used for good things.
Yeah, they always talk to things, you know, like that. Just like when they get this cedar too, you're supposed to talk to that too, you know, get it before you burn it. And when you go to somebody for help, you're supposed to give them a little something. See, that's the way. That's the old way, you know. That.
People still do that a lot, or
yeah.
I was
Now,
going
some
to
of
bring
them do, and then some of them they'll bring maybe, you know. Not like Alice and Mamie, they wanted us to help them one time. Well, she brought coffee and sugar. Coffee and sugar. She said, I need your help. Then Mamie, she come one time, she wanted help. She brought a piece of meat, you know. She said, I need your help. And different things like that, you know.
That's a good way to do it. I mean, it's you're being helped, and you should help.
Yeah, that's what our people used to say. When you go to some, long time ago, when you used to go after somebody, not like they used to come after my mother, you know. They'd come in, we'd say, here comes so-and-so. Oh, I know why they're coming, she'd say, before she even saw them.
She would know, like you, she knows ahead of time.
And she'd say, well, speak to them. Well, we'd speak to them, come on in, come on in. They'd come in to her, you know, they'd bless her, talk to her and bless her, you know. I'll come to you for help. I've got a sick person, you know, and there's so-and-so, you know, sick, or I want you to come and doctor her, or him, or whoever it was, you know. So that, they'd bless her, and then they'd say, after if she'd accept it, well, then they'd tell her what she was gonna, what they were gonna give her when she let them go, see.
Yeah, doctors did that.
And then sometimes they'd say, we'll wait until, you know, she gets well, and we'll do what we're gonna do, whatever we can do. See, that's that's the way they used to do, you know, bless her. And then if we was outside, and they'd bless us too, you know, for, you know, to ask, I guess, to come and ask for help. See, if they bless us, well, then there's no way out for her to, you know,
whether she
refuse.
wants to.
That's the way they used to work things like that.
That's an interesting thing. Because
there's a lot of things.
There's a lot of things that are so important, because this blessing makes the person, he's now in relationship to God, because he's been blessed, and that means that they're asking God to bless this person. Therefore, this person, now blessed by God, must act in a godly manner toward, or be good and kind to.
And then in return, she goes to him again in prayer, see, before she goes, see. And then when they'd bring things to her, like if they'd bring a blanket, she'd go in the other room and she'd get her medicine bag out and bless, you know, touch it and bless it, you know, and then bless the blanket or whatever they brought her, groceries and stuff.
Everything was sacred.
Everything was,
Is that word Waruksti? Does that mean that? Waruksti?
Waruksti means wise.
Wise. That's what it means, wise. It doesn't mean...
Kishkutatikskapaket, that means
bless
bless us, you know. That's the way they used to put it. That's, there's different expressions you could use, you know, on things like that. We used to have our nephew that we used to call him son, that Alfred Boychief. She doctored somebody. I forgot who it was now, at the village. I guess all that time he was watching. Yeah, they brought groceries to her, you know.
Yeah.
Before she could bless them, he come in. He said in Indian, "Mother, I want these."
Mm.
He said, "Mother, I want these." She said, "Well, take them." He just grabbed them and took them on.
Alfred Boychief.
Alfred Boychief.
Didn't he know the ways, or what was the
Yeah,
matter?
but he was nervous. We used to call him Nerve.
I see.
He was one of those, you know, that didn't have no respect for himself and just want things. He just asked for it. See?
Yeah. Garland said there were people like that who didn't have old people to tell them.
Yeah.
And he said there were so many orphans around 1900 who grew up without this knowledge because their people were gone.
Yeah.
And so they just did things that they shouldn't do, and they didn't know
Well,
how.
he knew, but he just do things
Mm-hmm.
like that, you know. He was the only one that ever done that, you know.
Mm-hmm. What
I
a
told my
shock.
mother, I said, "What you let him have them for?"
Nora. What'd she say?
Oh, be quiet, she said. Let him have them. Maybe he needs them more than we need them.
Yeah, she was always looking on that side of things from the other point of view.
The best part of it,
Mm-hmm.
So that's all that was, you know, things like that. I know, you know, what happened. Ghost dance, you know, we used to be dancing down there at the ghost dance.
Did you dance too, Nora? You seem too young to have been.
I used to always dance with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd make me hold hands, or either I'd be in front of my mother, you know.
Yeah.
And I used to have a doll. I'd take it around when they'd be eating. I'd be going around with my doll, and my grandpa would tell the other grandpa, "Is that your baby she's got?" "No, it's yours." And you know, there'd be a whole bunch of grandpas. I used to have a bunch of grandpas. They'd all be joking, you know.
Oh, they can tease.
Whose is it? And I just point to one of them, you know. And, they'd all laugh, you know. My dad used to say, "Don't get mad now when they tease you." He said, "Don't get mad. They're just joking with you." I said, "Nowadays, you know, you can't joke with these people anymore."
You got to be careful who you joke with. I mean, they don't understand that this used to be the way it was, and when you joke with somebody, you're teaching them something.
Yeah. And like when you make somebody dance, you have to give away for them, see?
Mm-hmm.
Give away for them. And a lot of times we used to have, way back there, I just barely remember, we used to have a ghost dance, and then we had that, the old lady used to have that arika, and a salkipedido, and there were several different kinds of dances, you know, but I was raised right there, you know, at them.
You saw it all.
I just took part in everything, I guess. I said, that's why I don't even care to dance anymore.
Yeah, that's right. You don't do that much dancing anymore. You stand over there and dance right there, up and down, up and down.
I said, I was brought up dancing. From the ghost dance on to recent years. I said, now my girls are taking part. I said, let them have
let
it.
them do it. Do you remember when they were having the ghost dance, you know, that the agents tried to stop the ghost dance all over the country? Did they try to stop it here? How did they do that?
They used to sneak around and have their ghost dance. And they'd have a guard watching if the sheriff would come around, well, they'd quit, you know. They wouldn't dance. They used to go way up this way and dance, and then down here where, if you ever go this way, when you cross that this little creek up here, they used to dance right down in there, ghost dance. There used to be a good spring down there. That's why they used to dance there.
They danced down there.
Yeah.
I don't know where they danced the South Band dance. It was over there somewhere.
No, they used to be down that way though. But they used to go up towards Masham there and watch Masham and it's up that way. My folks, they had their land up here by you know, where you turn that road going towards going to Ralston, where that water tower's at.
I've been out.
Ralston,
sure. Yeah.
you know, coming around this way. But you go straight this way on that dirt road, and off down in there. My father and my grandma and
were there allotments
uncles and all my Bray Chief allotments that were down in there. My mother's got an allotment over there now. My dad had one, but them kids wanted to sell it to Israel.
Well, I thought this was your dad's allotment here.
No, this was aired land. He was married to Ruth Behale's sister.
I see.
Oh man, the Eagle Chief's daughter.
Yeah.
His name was Eagle Chief, Skinny Eagle Chief.
Yeah, there was two of them. One over there and one over here.
Yeah, and this was his allotment, 160. This one and this one across the road. Well, my dad was married to his daughter, and she passed away, and when she had a child for him, see, and that child lived a little while, and then it passed away. So he got aired into this. See, there was Maggie Hen and Mabel and Ruth Behale. There were three women and my dad. They said he comes in on it. So when they had the hearing, they said that ground was already broken down here, and there was a house right down that way along that fence line. And they said, some lady said, we want this other land across the road. They said, well, Ruth, she just got 20 acres, I believe, out of that, and Mabel and Maggie Hen got the rest of this to that corner. And they said, well, since we're going to put you over here on this, where it ain't broken in or anything, you're going to get 80 acres.
That's how they did that.
So then my dad got 80 acres, and them three had to divide that 80. Yeah. So that's
how that came.
So this was the allotment name is Eagle Chief. Eagle Chief allotment here. But our folks, they were up there, Ralston, right across the river. That's why. They must have had good land up there, but my uncle wanted to sell them, and
So they sold it all? There's nothing left?
They sold it all. My dad was hanging on to some. But Ezra and them wanted to sell it, so finally I told them, well, rather than argue with them all the time, I just let them sell it. They come in on this, they got, I think it's 17 acres. 17 acres they got here. It has to be divided 6 ways, see. Katie's children. She was my half-sister. We had the same father, see, but different mothers. And then Robert had 17 acres, and I had 17 acres, and my mother got the rest, see. Well, when my mother died, well, then we get it. They don't come in on it.
I see.
Eleanor and them, they still got that 17 acres, see.
Is it undivided? Or?
It's undivided. So that's how we got this piece of ground.
Well, it sure is beautiful to look out the windows over the hills. It's a beautiful sight.
And this was all Indian land down here where the lake's at, you know.
Yeah, it's a pretty place. I always enjoy driving out this way because it's a pretty sight. Well, Nora, I think I better go on and see how Auntie is doing.
Yeah.
Maybe I can go shopping for her or something.
Yeah, you might have to help her.
Well, all we've decided is we don't think all of his pictures are really Pawnee, but we don't know for sure. Maybe I could...
Did you ever hear that they had a hide?
Mm-mm.
And it was like a map.
I heard about that. That's in Chicago. With the stars on it? With the
And
stars on it?
I don't know what it had on it, but they said it was like this. They had them rivers and...
No, I didn't hear about that.
The different things on it, and they said the last time they used that was down here by this rocky fort, on the other side of the house down here, Stacy's house. You know where Stacy lives? Right east here of this, on this road going down this little hill. They live.
Stacy lives over there?
Stacy Howell, right here. Around that lake now, there's a lake there now. There used to be a rocky fort. Gober used to live upon a hill, and they said they was going to run with that.
Oh.
And this, it was rolled up, and they said this man was carrying it to go across that.
It's at 790. 790 is where I'm starting to record. The tape got messed up right there at the point that Nora was talking about the hide with the world drawn on it, and so I'm going to record over again what she was telling me at this time. She did make the comment when the tape stopped that maybe it wasn't supposed to be recorded, and I said yes, that often happens. I'm on the road toward Oklahoma City from Pawnee, so this is why the sound was so loud. Okay, now that was 80, 89. Okay, now, what she was saying was that they used to have this race, and that the old man was carrying this hide on his back, and he was running toward the south, as she pointed out her kitchen window, straight out her kitchen window toward town. And then he ran, and as he ran, it got heavier and heavier. And I said, well, did that race, was it Ski Dee? And she said yes. And I said, do you remember who the people were? No. And whose allotment was it on? Well, it was on the allotment that it wasn't on allotment, it was on the road near the Rocky Ford. Whether they ran on the road or they ran in the field, I don't know, the runner. But this map she described as a hide that was, she said it wasn't too big, but when he ran it got heavier and heavier as he did. And I asked her what she thought the significance of this was, and she didn't know, and she said they did that once a year. And I can't remember whether she said it was in the spring or the autumn. But I told her I hadn't heard of that, and I would see if I could find anything out about it. That was all she knew. She said it was done after 1908 because it was done when she was a little girl, and she remembers it's being done. And it was right down there near where she lived. She lives on the old Eagle Chief. Her father was heired into the Ski Dee Eagle Chief's allotment. He and 3 women, and they divided it with, and he came over on this side of on the north side of the road and built his house, if I have these directions right. Now, early in the, when I got to Nora's, we talked for about a half an hour before we did any taping at all. And one of the principal subjects we were talking about, she was telling me how she likes to help people, and the people, you know, she's helped a lot of people. And she was talking about the Knife Chief family and Johnny Cake, as she calls him, and was talking, said that he is once more again interested in Josie Nuttall, this, and then she told me about the problems that Lois and John had had some time ago. And then everyone knows about this in the tribe, of course, that Lois was very upset, and when she found out about this affair, and she came out to see Nora. She said one day I was sitting here, and she said she drove up in the car, and she got out and she was crying. And she came in and she said she didn't know what to do. She said she had all of her clothes in the car. She had $10, and she was going to see how far she could go with that $10. She was just going to leave. And she had packed up and come out to see Nora. Now, Nora is related to her in a manner that Nora explained to me. And that Nora had told her that she should not abandon her home, but that she should go and she should go back there. I mean, that was her home, and she was the mother of the children, and she had raised that, and that was a children's home, and that she should not be taking off. And if anybody left or took off and left, it should be Johnny Cake, as Nora kept calling him. So his name kept coming up all through this conversation, which I thought was very interesting. So she said that she said I talked real rough to her, and I just told her she just didn't want to do that. She should go home and stay there and not abandon it. And if he wanted to leave, then he should leave, and she should retain all the furniture and everything else. And then she said well, she did go home. Well, then a few days later, or sometime later, I don't know what, she slashed her wrist. And then once Lois did this, she called up Roberta, and Roberta is a registered nurse and daughter of Nora, and went over to Roberta's house and drove herself over there. And of course, I suppose Roberta fixed her up. She didn't send that, but she said Roberta just lectured her too, and she said, you don't do that. You don't need to do that. She said, it's hard. If he's going to leave, let him leave. She says, I had to go through that. And she says, it's painful, but you'll get over it. You'll feel better about it. This is the fact that her husband, John, was interested in this Josie Nuttall. Apparently, Lois went down to Josie's house and had a knockdown and drag out at one time, because Nora's oldest son, who then apparently was on the police force or the tribal police or something, had gone down, and he had told both Lois and John to go on back home, leave Josie's home. And so this was quite a tragic situation there for a while. And she was talking about John, that he claims this and he claims that. For instance, he claims his son Charlie is a full blood, and he isn't, because John Norris wasn't, and who was half, or Charlie's grandmother was half on his mother's side. They were half white. She said, he shouldn't do that. He knows better than claim Charles. Why don't you just say my son Charles was not a doctor, instead of saying a full-blood Pawnee, which he isn't. Okay. And so then later on she said, this is on tape, I think, the next episode, where her faith in John Knife Chief has been somewhat shook by the events of the last few years. is side 2 of tape 2. Comments by Martha Blaine on the visit to Nora Pratt on September the 28th. 1982. Have to shift the car and hold the microphone. Okay. I was describing. Well, I think maybe I ought to redo that impressions of this race that Nora was talking about. This a race that occurred on the Skeety land at Rocky Ford back. This is fascinating to me because of the implications of it, that the man is carrying on his back a rolled up buckskin with a map of the world, and there's an expression, he runs with the world. He runs with the world, to run with the world, or carries the world, that she gave me in Pawnee, but I didn't have the recorder was messed up there for a minute, and I didn't get it. See if it's running now, yes. And, so an old man does the job of running. People run after him. People run too. Now, isn't that interesting? Now, that's just very fascinating, and it was being done as late as well, it was after she was born. She was born in 1908, so if she remembers it could be the early 20s they were doing it, so it must have been important to the Skeeties for this ceremony to take place. So I want to check on that. Now let's see, other impressions. She was she talked a lot about the problems of the tribe, the people. She said that everybody's having trouble with their children, and she discussed her own children and other people's children, and back to the knife chief situation. She was mentioning Josie Nuttall, and I was always saying that she always seemed like had been a nice person to me, and always seemed to be, real well mannered and so forth. And she said, well, she used to be married to a Bob, I think she said, and they had a nice home over there near Tulsa she had 5 bedrooms and nice bathrooms, and she left him, or she quit, and or divorced, and he drank a lot, and apparently that was the reason for their marriage being dissolved, but she had children. Then she came back over here to Pawnee to live. She made the comment she thought that she could have stayed with him and she could have helped him with that problem, Nora said. At least that was Nora's opinion. And Nora was still making quilting for people. She had a quilting frame that she had rolled up. Last time I was there it was out, but she had rolled it up, and she's making a quilt for a woman in Stillwater who is an antique dealer who comes around every now and then to see how Nora is, and said she always brings her something. And she first time she came around, she said she'd heard that I might have some antiques to sell, but she didn't. But she still comes around, and she said she not only has this quilt to quilt, but she's got about 8 or 10 others to quilt that she hasn't been able to get to. That's one way she earns money. She had the television on when I was there. It was a soap opera that she looked at. She said she gets lonely. She told me that during the meeting, and I told her I did too. And she told me so many wonderful things today that about the supernatural and her beliefs and what things happen, and about her mother coming back in spirit, and about her knowing about things. I mean, it was really a very enlightening conversation with a traditional person who's trying to follow the old ways as best she can. She had a good teacher, and that was her mother, who was a doctor. Nora, I think this is on the tape on the other side. I hope that she gives names. So she's really an interesting woman. She's 74 now. I'm not sure that this got recorded or not. It may not have. It was, she was talking about medicine and curing, and talking about her father and her mother and some other relative that were doctors, and she talked about the splints. I think this must be on the tape because I was making comments about the lengths of them, so I think it is on the tape on the other side. Splints for broken bones. Yeah, that is on the tape because I was saying the lengths of each of them so that it would get onto tape. At lunchtime, Willard, her oldest son, came in. Willard is separated from his wife, apparently. He's living in the roundhouse, which you can see over there near the house. I'd like to go look at it sometime. I could see it through the trees. There were 2 or 3 cars around it. One of them was his. He drove up and had lunch, and she asked him where he'd been. He'd doing some work somewhere. He had bought himself an axe handle because he was going to have to go out and chop wood because there was a wood stove in the roundhouse. Willard wore a t-shirt, blue t-shirt that said Williams Water Polo on it, something like that. It was torn. She says he has had 10 children by the Ponca woman that I think she discussed this family relationship. It's one of the things she was discussing before I started taping, I believe, and the Ponca woman they'd never gotten along too well, I guess, and they separated, and he moved down here and lived over near the agency in one of the houses, and then one day she turned up with a moving van full of furniture. She had been paying her rent on her house up there in Ponca. Oh, maybe this is the house that had the 5 bedrooms and the 2 baths. I'm not sure which house it was. Oh my, bad memory here. But anyway, she hadn't paid the rent, so she just brought her stuff down and went back living with her husband, Willard. And then something happened. They condemned the house they were in, so they moved out to the roundhouse. Nora let them live in that. And then now the woman, one of the daughters, moved into an apartment in town, and the woman moved in, the wife, Willard's wife. And so I guess that's how it stands now. I guess all the children are with her, and the ones that are not grown. Willard's out here in the roundhouse by himself. Looks to be, he must be in his late 40s. Can't tell, maybe early 50s. It's their oldest child. One of the problems that Willard and his wife had seems to be not uncommon. I've heard of it before, is that she wouldn't have let him discipline the children. If he tried to discipline the children, why, particularly the older boy, why she would just have a fit. This is one of the reasons they separated, so that he just simply apparently had no status at all as far as his role as father of the children. I was saying, well, are Ponca women like that? I asked her, I said, you know, that was one of the problems that Garland had with Alvina, is that he would try to instruct the children or correct the children, and that she wouldn't uphold him, and sometimes made them feel that he had no authority. I said, "Ponca women like that?" I said, "Is that something they do?" She said she didn't know, maybe. Another thing that may not be on the tape, I'm not sure. I was, during some of the time at lunch, I think, when we were preparing lunch, I think the tape was off. But anyway, I was asking her about owls. I said, "How do the Pawnees feel about owls?" She says, "Well, they're supposed to, they tell you about death or illness that's coming." I said, "Oh?" She said, "Yes." She said, "That's what we believe." I said, well, I asked her if they were good or bad. She said, "Well, bad." And I told her about the fact that there used to be an owl that came and sat in the trees and at night, and Garland said that was the friendly owl. He said that owl just used to come and make, owls used to make all kinds of racket a couple of years before the year before he died. And I said he used to call him a friendly owl, and she said, well, he probably just didn't want to admit what it really meant. I was thinking then of that owl that was out in the tree last Monday night singing and hooting, and then when I went out in the yard the next day and went out to the very backyard, there's this, you could see this big feather in the grass, where I do my jogging, and I looked at it and I thought, that's an owl, that's not a hawk feather, that's an owl feather, and that owl that was here last night must have left that feather. And I'm just enough Indian to wonder what in the world that meant. And that was, I guess, what motivated me to ask her that. If at that time we were talking and she was standing there in the kitchen, she says, sometimes I can see shadows of people. I can tell things are going to happen. I get a darkness comes. Not her words, but she knows. Sometimes I know when things are going to happen before they happen. That's prophesying or foreseeing. That's a gift that some people have, For dinner, she cooked some meat and some rice, and that's what we had. It was really good. She said, I thought I might get a salad, and I said, no, I'm not going to get her any salad. And this is a big joke I told her about salads. I think that might be on the tape, but so and I had some chocolate cake and rice and meat. It was good. In an Indian bowl, enameled. Adam wasn't there, but during the conversation, she told me that Adam had been married before she married and had, 5 or so children by another wife before he married Nora. I'm not sure this is recorded either, but she was talking about, we were looking at that book by Ashworth that she had a copy she's supposed to make a comment on. And she said that Old Lady Washington tent had moon and crows and what else? Deer on it, painted on it. And she said the tents used to have these things painted on the teepees. Talking about designs. Another item, she talked about camping. She pointed out down maybe toward the lake where the Skeety village was, or she wasn't very specific, but she mentioned several South Band families that would come and camp with her folks at that time. And I said, those are South Band. She said, oh yeah, they used to come and camp with us. One of them was Ruwak. There was one name she named. Luwak, she said, rather than Ruwalk. Well, his Christmas camps, I'm not sure, but South bands were coming over and is invited and camping. Other name was Old Man Echo Hawk. He was another one in that group. We also talked before we started recording about Roberta's term as drumkeeper for the Veterans Organization. And I told her how well Roberta had done, I thought, and had carried out her duties and responsibilities in a very fine manner. And I said, I remember when I was here last time, you told me that when she was starting that she knew people were going to be critical. And she said, yes, they really were critical. And she said, Lois Knife Chief was one of the most critical. And then she, you know, this she said she couldn't understand why, since Lois had gone to Roberta after her attempt, you know, cutting her wrist, and Roberta had taken care of her. But anyway, she said that sometimes we'd go across the river to our Osage friends, and Roberta would ask them for help, and she said they never refused. She said they'd either come down and help, or they would give her money then, or donate something, give her something. So because it was very expensive to be the drum keeper, of course, and so the Osages were very helpful to her friends among them, that is. And that's intertribal relationship that needs to be remembered. Then she said her mother told her to be sure to give them shawls and blankets for helping out when they came to visit. This. I will do that. I will erase it. Oh, there's plenty of room there for that. I think it's tall, though. Well, I still will be able to put it in there and to be taken care of, I think. Okay. Not me. Okay. Why aren't you? I don't see any value in it. Okay, now. There's another one. We're gonna erase the stuff and use the tapes. Okay. Well, the stuff on the bundles, you see what I have out here. You see, the bundle folder. What I was going to do take this with me. And I didn't do it. I didn't take it at all. And it was in here. So I'm back to the bundle folder again. Nora. I did that. I'll have to what do you want to do? I have to. Well, that tape is important to me because the tape is important because I have a, let me write down what the number is. Yeah, that's what I gotta do this complete. I need to, oh my gosh.